and we are back with another episode for the Diffusion podcast. Today we have Felipe Lupion. He is a creator. He is mainly leading a community on Instagram, has thousands of followers in digital nomadism. It is a pleasure to have Felipe here today because, as you all know, we are launching our product, Digital Economic Zone Node, aimed to onboard people that live and work online, and no one better than Felipe to talk about that. So, Felipe, welcome. First, why don't you provide a brief background on your history and how did you ended up on Web3?
Hello. So first of all, I'm happy to be here talking to you, Ricardo. In Web3 or Web2? What was the question? Web3,
I
right?
think we can provide like it's good to make like where are you coming from, your previous background, and how you ended up on Web3. I think it's good to provide the full overview.
Okay, so actually I started in Web3 through games. Since I was a kid, I always loved playing games. And I had this friend, this Canadian friend that I met here in Switzerland. He, at the time, he had a bunch of scholarships and what was the game called? Axie Infinity. I'm sure you're familiar with this game, right?
Yeah. It was quite popular among Brazilians and it was a huge tool for onboarding as well, which is funny because Brazilians sometimes they get into Web3 to more interactive experiences, which is very effective. So whoever came up with the idea, I'm sure they probably planned, they knew the market they were getting to, then they were able to onboard a lot of people into the technology,
Yeah,
the blockchain crypto.
yeah, for sure. So that's what happened to me as well. I mean, I always loved the gaming. And when I saw that this dude was making money playing games, I was like, okay, so I need to learn that. I started searching about it and then called him. He helped me to buy a team. Actually, you had to buy, I think, 3 NFTs. I didn't even know what NFTs were at the time, but he helped me with onboarding, and it was quite easy actually. And yeah, at the time I was playing football. That was actually my profession, and I was in Norway, and I had a lot of free time, especially at night. So yeah, I started with games, and then I loved it. I just loved it how everything works. The how this, like, you can actually send money to your friend without using the bank. That to me was amazing, and yeah, never stopped learning about it since then. Fell in love with Web3 and been here since then. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the most important aspect that I noticed about you is the fact you're already a global citizen. We spoke before. We got to know because we share interests in common. As you know, I have lived in Europe for almost 10 years. And one thing that I noticed, whoever has been exposed to the international environment, especially if they're doing money transactions from one country to the others, they understand crypto and Web3 much better than the other because at the end of the day, you're thinking about how can I transact money? Sometimes just value information in an easier way than it is today. Because like me especially, I have been using like platforms like TransferWise, but today is like Wise. Have used MoneyGram. It served a purpose, but let's be honest, for the digital economy, especially, you're a creator, you produce content for Instagram. It's just not efficient. Yeah, we need something more embedded into the platform, the technological side. Of course, with that, we need security. And I think blockchain, I think no, I'm pretty, I'm 100% sure the blockchain is able to provide that safety net. So in that sense, looking probably a little bit more into your lifestyle. Yeah, because I saw you went to Asia, Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia is a major hub for digital nomads. So if you want to talk a little bit about your global experience, I think it will be interesting as well.
Okay, yeah. So I started traveling because, first of all, I always played football. I think we should start there, 'cause otherwise people won't understand why I started traveling. Like, it wasn't out of nowhere. I always played football in Brazil since I was a kid, and academy teams. And when I was 19, I got a scholarship to go play in the US for a university. It was a full scholarship at the time. So I'm from São Paulo, and my neighborhood is not the best in São Paulo. So I got this offer, and I didn't even think, of course. It was, I mean, the guy told me, you're going to live in the US, play football, get to study, and everything for free. So I didn't even think. I went there, uh, stayed in the US for like 5 years, and then I wanted to keep playing football. So I came to Europe because my grandparents were Spanish, and I mean, I had to go through a process because I was already over 18 years old, so I had to go through a different process to get the citizenship, and it was during COVID. It took a while, but okay, I got the passport, and then I started playing football here. And with football, I mean, you travel a lot. You're always going to different cities to play, and I always loved it. Um, Played in some other countries here, like I said, Norway. I've been to Kosovo, Bulgaria. For Bulgaria was actually quick, but I mean, I always loved it. Just traveling, it was to me, it was amazing. And yeah, getting a bit out of track here, but then I started creating content around 2021 when I was in Spain. 2021 it was at end of 2021. Actually, it was right when I started playing Axie Infinity in Web3. So it was about the same time. Started creating content, and I saw on the internet an opportunity to have like a different path other than the football. And yeah, that's how I started my online career. And about Thailand and Asia. So when I went there, I actually wasn't playing football anymore. So what happened was I was pretty familiar already with the life here in Europe. I wanted to see something different. That's what I like about being a digital nomad. When you get to travel and meet different people, different cultures, I think that helps a lot with creativity, and especially if you're a content creator, that's pretty important, I would say. Yeah. So yeah, man, I went to Thailand, and it was amazing. I met a lot of people also working online, which is also something really good for networking. A lot of people in Web3. So that's like a snowball. You're creating content, you meet people also creating content, and that just helps with everything. I mean that you're doing. You get to make better partnerships, to make better deals, and yeah. Um,
I love the
so
fact that you went through like that was a an amazing context, and it's good for people to understand how, because it's so easy for you to look at people on the screen today and you feel like, wow, I would like to have that life, but they don't have the full context on how a person actually ended up being a digital nomad. I mean, so I think it's good to
yeah,
be
yeah,
provided. It didn't happen like in the turn of the switch of the light. Yeah, so there is how like a whole journey that you went through. I'm the same. But with that, what I think is also important is you mentioned something very interesting that not all creators have that perspective, but I think it's because you have been exposed to creators, let's say, let's put it in a nice way, with more experienced creators that understand business. You're talking about deals and partnership. That's
Mhm.
so important when it comes to digital as a whole. Doesn't matter if you're just creating content, if you consider yourself a social media influencer, if you just rely on your audience and you think that you're gonna be, let's say, some sort of like personality that
Uh-huh.
everyone will adore for a long time, this won't happen because every day there are new people popping up if you're unable to work with them and sometimes come up with more interesting products as well because the market is changing and the digital economy is no different than the economy. It's actually the economy on steroids. So you can partner with people from everywhere in the world. So I love the fact that you mentioned deals, partnership, and that's what we're bringing with the FTC. We're developing a digital economic zone, especially for people like you. So you can get to work with people, but what do you need today to, let's say, you're not willing to be part of any of the conventional nation states. You're kind of a global citizen, but you don't feel like you should be tied to any government. Uh, what do you
Right.
need to operate? You still need to declare tax in a certain way. You still need to have, of course, today you have the tools for payments. I don't think like payment tools are another issue, but how the payment tools operate in a safeguarded, reliable, and diplomatically recognized place, that's important. So we're developing is a tool, an app that allows a person like you, a creator, a digital nomad, that we know there's a lot of developers as well that they don't stay in one place. But still they have to like, unfortunately, sometimes they let's say they're some of them come to me and say, I wasn't lucky that I was born in Brazil because apart from that, I don't feel connected with Brazil in any sense, even less
Uh-huh.
financially. So if they could opt out for another place, especially if this jurisdiction would offer better taxes for them, they'll definitely
Yeah.
opt for it. So we're providing this online. So like you mentioned, to become a creator, to become a digital nomad, you went through a lot of stuff. And I know, man, like I feel you, I went through a lot of stuff as well. But the thing is, I got a bit gonna say passionate about the idea, but I want everyone to have the same opportunities that I had. Like you, I was born in Rio. Okay, I wasn't born in the worst neighborhood, but I saw like I saw the other side. So I know not everyone will have the same opportunities to experience that we have experienced. So what we want to make available for people is doesn't matter where they are, if they are in deep regions in Brazil, in Africa, in Asia, they have the chance, if they have the digital skills to thrive, if they're already working online and getting paid online, they have the chance to acquire a e-residency, like for example, you probably know the Estonia, for example.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
make this
That's a
very affordable and very easy. You can open a business in once like a May, like let's say a legal persona that you can open it with one click and pay just one fixed rate. So that's what we're developing. So in that sense, what I want to ask you is now when you try to bridge your experience from creating content, from being global, from traveling all around the world, how do we bridge this with the technology that we see emerging in Web3 and crypto? So how do they connect? Feel free to kind of be a bit philosophical here. The idea here is to explore.
um I mean, you are way more qualified to talk about that than me, but I'm gonna talk about my experience. If you can make, if you could, you can create a product that is gonna be, um, uh, what's the best way to put it? There's less bureaucracy like that. That already is gonna help a lot. Like, so I had a travel agency, and my audience is Brazilian. So I opened the agency in Brazil, but I was traveling to Thailand. I was in Switzerland, and yeah, it wasn't an easy experience. Um, um, Let me think of a way.
You know what? Well, I think one of the most complete, like I'm also an entrepreneur and I know the pains. If you're structuring your operations, if you're global, it's so difficult because sometimes you get paid in different currencies and you have to pay in different currencies. You're dealing with people from different places. So imagine like if you can centralize this and make it less bureaucratic. I think we spoke before, you're planning to kind of shut down your business in Brazil, something like that. Like, what was the
Actually,
reason?
yeah, I just did it. Actually, I just did it. Yeah, I was paying a lot of taxes, and if I, for example, if I sold a ticket for like to someone in Europe, I had to send the money to Brazil and then declare like the money that I just got, and then pay a fee for this, pay a fee for that, and then at the end of the day, it's just like it's like the government is a it's like a partnership that they don't help you, but they actually ask a lot from you, you know.
No, I think
So
that line, that phrase was very important. And to be honest, like this space here, the podcast we record, we want people to be honest. Of course, we try to mind our words, but that's exactly it. And it doesn't make sense if you think about it. Who is employing you? Is it a Brazilian company? No. Who is serving you with the services? Is it a Brazilian government? No. So why should I be paying taxes? Or it doesn't make any sense. So imagine I'm getting paid
exactly,
by a company that is in Europe. My healthcare is there. My pension is from there, and I have to pay a tax in Brazil. This is just nonsense. So I'm not even being the logic. I'm very pragmatic. But in that sense,
yeah,
I understand. I know exactly where you went through. So you closed the business, so that was a
I
major
did.
reason, yeah.
Yeah, actually it was. And also, you don't even have to be a digital nomad. Like, let's say you're Brazilian, I don't know, you work you're a dev in Brazil and you work for a company in the US or whatever, they pay you in dollar. Like, just the amount of money they're gonna um, get from your salary when you convert it to Brazilian real. I mean that's a big chunk of your salary every month. Like it's so if there's a system that a guy, even if he wants to live in Brazil, like let's say a guy he doesn't want to go far from his family, he wants to stay there, but he speaks English and he wants to make money in dollar, and or because I mean if you check the Brazilian currency is not doing very well right now. So the guy speaks English, wants to work for an international company, is in Brazil. Um, yeah, like I feel like even for him that would be amazing if he could get his paychecks on the blockchain, doing everything legally, and just choosing a better way to pay taxes. I mean, I feel like
No,
yeah, that's
you're being completely right, and that's the idea here. To be honest, I'm thinking both about the guy that is a entrepreneur, he has a startup, but also thinking, let's say, um, the workforce. Yeah, the workforce, the Brazilian workforce today, most people don't realize it, but especially if you're in the public sector, you tend to believe that Brazilians are not very skilled, but the Brazilian developers, they are one of the most, let's say, they hold the highest prestige in the economic scene. So a lot of Brazilians are being hired to work for foreign companies in terms of developing, and these guys are setting contracts in dollar. Some of them they're getting paid in stable coins as well. Still, the thing is, they are in Brazil, and we know how complicated it is. Um,
yeah,
and in that sense, I think something they would even need to kind of like say that they left Brazil fiscally. But we're
yeah,
preparing again is a just fiction. And like let's probably make a parallel, a very realistic parallel. So you mentioned for you to go to Europe, you needed to go through a process to acquire, obtain the citizenship, like I did as
yeah,
well. But that's man, that's a long journey, and I know like for most people this will never be possible. So how do we democratize the option, just the option to not be because we have changed in our risks. And I think it's this we should pass because we know history has been interesting to say the least. When you look in the past, certain stuff were like, this is how things we did absurd stuff in history, and in that time everyone was okay with it. I believe we are in a moment in history that in 50 years from now we will look behind and say, wow, that wasn't very humanitarian, was it? Because we are If
Right.
the person is born in, let's say, in their own country, they are doomed for the rest of their life. That's not like very practical because we lose brains as well. But, like we know, intelligent people
Yeah.
sometimes they are born in the middle of nowhere, and then we are not
Right.
evolving as a civilization. Like we're missing all these talents because of just legal and technological infra. So in that sense, what I'm thinking is what we're building is to provide that jurisdiction, like easy to acquire citizenship, like you would imagine you're South America. You can get the US citizenship or the EU citizenship, but you get that online. You pay a fee, it's private. You don't need, again, if you're willing to and you want to, you can just register your business in this jurisdiction to operate legally, to receive payments, issue invoices for the contractors that you have globally. And of course, all be automated with blockchain in terms of smart contracts for to settle litigations. Of course, the system will keep evolving to make it look very like the public service, but in an automated way, but not waiting
Right.
for the government to do anything. Because if you wait on the public sector, man, this will take probably hundreds of years and never nothing will change. So probably
Oh
switch
yeah.
the conversation, ask you, because I know you have experience in Web3 and probably I'd like to have your insight. Because we are dealing with emerging technologies. So crypto is at the forefront of innovation. So what is the biggest impact when you think about crypto and financially for people overall, especially our generation, Gen Z and millennials?
Gen Z, millennials. I feel like this new generation has no patience. So I don't see how the traditional finance, like using banks and waiting for Monday for your transaction to go through, like I don't see this new generation having the patience to deal with that. Like to me, it's a no brainer. Web3 is the way, and um, you just can't compare. Like if I want to send money to a guy in China, I can do it in 1 second on the Solana blockchain or whatever, any other. We got so many options nowadays, but yeah, man, I just don't see this new generation using the traditional banking system anymore. So to me, that's for sure the biggest game changer. Do you see it the same way?
Yeah, well, I do. I love to ask questions because there's always like something more deep into it. It's not just technology, it's not just culture, it's also, let's say, demographics. Demographics are changing. So millennials are, I'm not quite sure, but I might be saying something wrong, but I'm pretty sure millennials are the the biggest chunk of the workforce today. When you think about labor, there are more millennials than the older generation. So that's already says a lot. And then you have the Gen Z joining the force together with millennials. And millennials are kind of already, it's funny because you have millennials that kind of go along with the system, but their millennials are kind of fed up. And they're like, let's do something different. Imagine the millennials coaching the Gen Z that you mentioned are not very fond of waiting, of bureaucracy. So I think there's a wave coming here. I would say like in the next few
Right.
years, especially with AI, we will see a lot of changes. And when culture changes, society has to change and technology gets adopted. But in that sense, how do we, because we know as well, blockchains that can be confusing. Like, okay, you have Solana, Ethereum, you have Bitcoin. In fact, you have more of them. And each blockchain, they have their own, let's say, rules, but it's still we haven't found a way to govern ourselves. Yeah, especially when where the money goes, who gets funded, who gets more money coming from the VC, which product should be being supported more. We are working around that. We see more and more grants getting more. In the past, it was so easy to get grants. You apply with something, I'm doing something in crypto, you get funded. Now you have to explain the community, the specs, your roadmap to prove a lot of stuff. So in that sense, the space is becoming more, in a sense, more professional. I think that's important, but people are maturing as well. I see the whole spaces. I think I see a huge synergy between creators like you, the developers, and the people that do business. When you get these three people together, man, you can create new business. Like I won't say new Amazons because they will be behemoths, but certainly new startups that makes a huge impact and change the world. So probably
Right.
we're probably heading to the end of the podcast, but I would like to hear from you just one last thing in regards to decentralization. So, what's your favorite blockchain? And what's the biggest? Let's say you spoke about Solana, but you can pick any of them, and really. So, how do you see them solving an issue in your life? As of course, we have the payments, but perhaps you can go deeper and how you see applying a blockchain in your life already.
I think it helps in a sense of creating online communities. So when you're a content creator, that's actually what you're doing. You're creating a community. I actually have a community called Nômade Web3. So let's say I wanted to reward the first members or something like that. I think the blockchain with NFTs is an easy way to do that nowadays. And you spoke about the transactions. Yeah, I think that helps a lot as well.
Can I just
Solana
mention
blockchain.
something about because you mentioned
Yeah,
your community? I think that's really important. The Nomad Web3 is digital nomads community that you're speeding up, and we will be working a lot together. And we believe, as you mentioned, uh, blockchain helps a lot those communities because I don't know, like this. I may sound a little bit too, sometimes like a business person, but I'm looking through the very pragmatic lens. Communities, they can end up being DAOs, and DAOs, they are very correlated with cooperatives. So you get people together, they do different stuff. Sometimes you have a leader figure like you, and then you start structuring your operations. One person does that, the other person does that, but it's very like around concessionalism and mutualism, and everything is done like using the mechanisms in blockchain to automate and provide. I think the token becomes an incentivizer for people to participate more, and of course reward the people that brings more value into it. So probably focus
right.
just a little bit more on the purpose of Nomad Web3. I think that would be nice.
Sorry, what was the final question?
Sorry.
Probably.
So the purpose of the community of the Nomad Web3 community. So we just have 10 minutes left. So we, if you want to go short on this,
Yeah. So how blockchain can help my community?
yeah, blockchain and how, like, say, what do you envision for Nomad Web3? Let's say in the span of 2 years, what do you aim to build with the community?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Sure, sure. So um, my biggest goal is to create a just a space where people around the world can meet and share opportunities. Like let's say you're working for a company in Asia and they need a someone that works with design, and you know this guy in Brazil, and you can connect through the community. um Also, I so most of my followers on Instagram and TikTok, they come from Web 2, and they are interested in learning more about Web 3. But what's the best way for these people to come in Web 3? I I mean, I am trading meme coins a little bit. I like that. I'm a little bit of a degen, but I wouldn't recommend that to anyone. So I created the community so we can create a path for someone that, let's say, a dev, a Web2 dev that wants to do the transact the to transact to Web3. Um, so I created the community so we can create a path for this guy to learn about Web3 and do it the best way, not just come and go straight to meme coins or lose all his money. No, he can come and learn about careers. Maybe he can be a content creator as well. So yeah, that's what the community is about. It's creating a path for these
Perfect.
people that come from Web 2 to Web 3.
That's amazing. And I think that's one of the, like, you're a very intelligent person. Not everyone has this perspective. And I think, especially for what we're building, it's extremely relevant that we speak with the masses. Of course, we are talking about digital nomads working on Web3, but the highest, like I would say, the biggest chunk of the digital nomad community, they are not on Web3. But it's still there. They're making
Right,
money. They they already, let's say, they live this model of like being global citizens, but they still don't have the infra, and they're not even into crypto. Some of them, they
right,
didn't know that they could get paid in stable coins. But also
right,
onboard them and show them, look, we're building here. That's important as well. There is a popular term that we're using now. Of course, I don't like to be too much focused on terms, but something called network society. So that's what I see you building. So you're onboarding people from Web 2 in your own network society. And then, of course, these people, once they get together and start using technologies that allow them to transact safely in a much faster and reliable and also protected way with jurisdiction that we'll be providing with your app, opportunities, they
right,
become much easier because sometimes I know some digital nomads, okay, they don't have a massive startup, but sometimes they have a small a business with 6, 7 people, and then they will be willing to hire someone from Brazil, from Africa,
right,
if they could just do this in a much easier way, they would do it. Because I know some of them, they hire someone through those gig work apps. But the thing is, when you hire just for a service, you cannot control the quality. So it's much easier sometimes to hire someone for something more complete, and the person as well in the network, than just hiring a random person. So amazing.
right,
I think the most important is you're creating content to attract these people, because the community is just a hub, yeah, to get these people on
right.
board. But you're actively talking about this on Instagram and TikTok, and you're a big person there. So I think it's amazing, and I love to also potentialize what you're doing. We're gonna talk a lot after this call. But Felipe, so
Yeah, for
one
sure.
last message for the future. What do you envision? What you actually want for the future when it comes blending Web3 and Web 2. So if you have, let's say, a pen today and you could write, this is what's going to happen, this is going to be my way, what would you actually do?
Um, I feel like, I mean, just providing opportunities, like we were talking, like let's a guy that is born in Venezuela or somewhere like that. If this guy can get the same opportunities online than a guy in the US or here in Switzerland, I think that's a big win already for the world. So I feel like the internet can do that.
Amazing. Yeah, I think it's more about facilitating commerce, global commerce. And
Right.
most people don't realize when you talk about global commerce, within it comes a lot of things. It comes like services exchanges, assets exchanges, like deals, partnerships. So just to facilitate that and make it, like, say, that you can bridge different regions in a level playing field. So that's what we're
Right.
actually building.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
we're building
Given the
with.
tools
Exactly, giving the
to
tools for people
yeah.
to actually operate. And again, man, today you open your app, doesn't matter where you are. Every country probably has a digital bank. It's so easy. You just need an email, probably an identity, and that's it. So we want to make like the pathway for you to acquire a residency of a global, because we know when that you went to Europe, what's the experience you get there? We have not much time, a lot of time, but what I felt like when I went to Europe was like now I had all the opportunities that I wanted because I could move to any country. I went first to UK, and then I went to Ireland, and then I went to Czech Republic, and then Malta, and then Slovakia and Barcelona. And I worked in different
Right.
companies, and I didn't have to think, oh, maybe I had to have a special visa for that. No, once I had the European passport, I could move all around. Of course, this was limited to Asia, but the idea here is you have this global passport. It doesn't matter who you are, you can get hired first digitally, and perhaps in the future, if you need and the company needs to bring you there to work physically. Anyway, Felipe, it
Right.
was an amazing conversation with you. I think you provided like a good understanding of how digital nomad life looks like, but also providing an edge of how the life in Web3 should look like. So I think I love that match, and I think you'll probably be one of the leading persons on that, to be honest with you. And I'm glad to help you with that as well. So one last invite for you, probably invite people to follow you because Felipe letting the audience know Felipe is quite big on TikTok, on Instagram, has thousands of followers from all around the world, people that are into digital nomadism. Well, this video mainly go on YouTube, but then we're launched on LinkedIn on X. So Felipe, if you can invite people for your social media, I think will be good.
Yeah, sure. You can find me on any any social media at Felipe Lupion. That's my name. Felipe, Felipe. Lupion is Lupion. And yeah, come and message me and let's have a chat. It would be great to meet people like-minded. And happy to be here. Thank you, Ricardo.
Amazing. So that's our motto. Connect, connect, do partners and deals, and that's it. Thank you, Felipe. Have a good day. And this was it for today's episode of the Diffusion Podcast. And until next week.